What if everything you've been taught about the soul, gods, karma was just a story? What if instead of chasing rewards in some distant afterlife, the real secret was simply to live fully here and now, to enjoy this life as deeply as possible? 2,500 years ago, in the fertile spiritual landscape of ancient India, a group of thinkers dared to ask these very questions. They rejected the gods, denied existence of the soul, and dismissed karma and rebirth. Their message was clear, bold, and downright shocking for their time. As long as you live, live happily. They were the Charvakas, and today we're diving deep into their radical philosophy, a philosophy of materialism, sensory experience, and unapologetic pleasure. Enter the world of Charvakas, India's ancient materialists, skeptics, and iconoclasts. Their story is that of a fierce challenger in the mythic arena, the rebel force that dared to confront the sacred mysteries with radical doubt and blunt realism. At their core, they were radical empiricists, people who trusted only what could be experienced through the five senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. Now, this might sound obvious to us today, but in their era, this was revolutionary. Theirs was a philosophy born of logos, a strict empiricism, but which carried deep psychological implications. A rejection of hope beyond death, a challenge to the comforting myths that bind society and soul. The Charvakas faced the existential abyss with unflinching eyes, declaring, "Eat, drink, and enjoy life, for death is the end." Yet, paradoxically, their fierce materialism created a powerful mythic tension. The rebel against the eternal, the challenger who forces us to confront what we truly know, what we only believe, and the boundaries between certainty and faith. Most philosophical schools accepted not only perception but also inference, that is, knowledge gained through logical reasonings, and testimony, meaning the word of sacred text or religious authorities. But the Charvakas, they challenged all of that. They said, look, inference can be wrong. People often jump to conclusions based on assumptions. And as for scriptures and priests, well, those are just human creations, stories passed down, but not absolute truth. Imagine the psychological relief this brought, a clean break from the mystical speculation and ritualistic dogma. Instead of worrying about unseen worlds, they focused on what could be directly known. Their epistemology was clear. If you can't see it, touch it, or hear it, don't believe it. And this was the foundation of their entire worldview, a strict empiricism that cut through superstition. But the Charvakas weren't just philosophers. They were storytellers who rewrote the spiritual narrative of their time. Back then, the dominant belief was that the soul was eternal, that karma tracked your moral deeds, and that you'd be rewarded or punished after death, either through reincarnation or eternal afterlife. The Charvakas flipped this upside down. They denied the existence of an eternal soul, calling it a comforting myth. They said that there is no rebirth, there is no cosmic justice, and no gods watching over you. Life, they claimed, is a single precious moment, like a spark that bursts brightly and then disappears forever. Think about that for a moment. It's a story stripped of illusions, forcing you to face the ultimate truth, that your time is limited and that there's no divine scoreboard. For some, this was terrifying, but for the Charvaks, it was liberating. This was a philosophy of life on its own terms, raw, honest, and intensely human. Now, what about the emotional side? How did people feel about such a stark worldview? Well, the Charvaks offered an emotional liberation from fear and guilt. In many religious systems, people lived with constant anxiety, fear of hell, worry about moral debts, guilt over desires. The Charvaks said, "Why carry this heavy burden of invisible debts? Why suffer today for a hypothetical tomorrow?" Their answer was very simple. Enjoy your senses, pursue pleasure, live joyfully and ethically in the moment. And this wasn't reckless hedonism. It was a thoughtful celebration of life's sensory pleasures, an invitation to embrace the here and now with courage and mindfulness. Psychologically, this is profound. It acknowledges the importance of joy and fulfillment as human needs and not sins. But it was also a lonely path. Imagine living in a society deeply steeped in spiritual belief and openly rejecting those beliefs. The Charvaks faced ridicule and exclusion. Yet their emotional resilience was remarkable. They confronted the finality of life head-on with no illusions to soften the blow. It's a stance that echoes the existentialists of modern times, philosophers who wrestled with meaning in an indifferent universe. So how did the Charvaks fit into the larger Indian philosophical landscape? Around the same time, you had schools like Brahmanism, with its complex rituals and caste hierarchy, Buddhism preaching the middle way and detachment, and Jainism with its strong non-violence and asceticism. Against this backdrop, the Charvaks were the wild cards, rejecting metaphysics and rituals and focusing solely on a tangible world. They even questioned the very tools of reasoning that others held dear, doubting inference and scriptural authority alike. This intellectual bravery came at a cost. Their texts were largely destroyed or lost, likely because their ideas were threatening to the religious establishment. It's a reminder how radical ideas often face erasure and censorship, yet their spirit survived as a counterpoint in Indian thought, a testament to the rich diversity of philosophical voices. Now you might wonder, why does this ancient philosophy matter to us today? Well, psychologically, the Charvaks' message still resonates very deeply. They face the same human challenges as we do. How to find meaning in the face of uncertainty and mortality, how to live authentically without relying on comforting illusions. Their insistence on living through direct experience, embracing pleasure responsibly, and rejecting fear-based guilt speaks to the modern themes in psychology, like mindfulness, secular humanism, and existential courage. Even Epicurus in ancient Greece echoed similar ideas, that pleasure and absence of pain are the goals of life. The Charvaks remind us that questioning belief, embracing doubt, and finding joy in the present can be acts of profound bravery.